Okay, and this leads us to the idea of generic operations, right? So the idea of generic operations is to create yet another abstraction layer in order to provide some generic operations, okay, to shield the complexity of managing multiple representations, right, from the user. Okay, so the idea here is someone can create a layer, either Ben or Lisa or someone else, okay, or even a project leader. This is the original picture you saw. So you have all these operations, right? Then there's a complex arithmetic package over here, right? So the idea now is to introduce an extra layer below the complex arithmetic package, right? So in this layer, we call it the generic operators layer. The general idea here is the following. That means the user, okay, will call real part, right? And this generic operator, right, will basically do the following. If Z is rectangular, it will actually recall the rectangular part of the real, okay, and extract contents. Similarly, if Z is polar, then you extract this polar real part, right, from contents. Otherwise, it will freak out, right? Okay. So after checking for the type of the data, right, we remove the tags, right, and they're hidden from the user. So let's take a look. How does the user's code look now for add complex? Well, essentially, it's back to square one. Essentially, you do make real, imaginary, rectangular, real part Z1, real part Z2, okay, and so forth, right? Now, the real part is the generic operator that takes care of figuring out what is the type of the complex number and matches the correct function to the data, to extract the real imaginary parts, right? So this makes life very simple, and the selectors are now generic operators, okay? Now the constructor, we can decide which one we want to use and use the better one. Okay, when we want to use real imaginary, we can use the rectangular coordinate because it doesn't lose any accuracy. All right. Whereas if you use magnetic angle, you use polar because the way it works is that this will store the values in the underlying form. Now the question, obviously, that we need to discuss today is how do we implement this generic operator layer? So it turns out there are several strategies to doing so, and we'll talk about 3 of them. Okay, the first strategy is what we call dispatch on type. Okay, the idea is very simple. Generic operators will look at the data, figure out what type it is, and just call the appropriate function. Generic operators can work on data that take on multiple different forms, and we call this polymorphic data. Okay, so this is how it works. Okay, and let me show you how we move across the various abstraction layers, right? From the complex arithmetic package. Okay, so these are all the add, subtract, mul, and divide. Okay, you go down to the generic operator layer. The generic operator will basically check on the data type, and depending on the data type, it will go either to the rectangular or the polar representation. The polar representation side, over here, it has its own set of functions that will take care of the operations. And before that, right, the tags are stripped. Okay, and then after that is done, right, then the data will be returned up to the complex arithmetic package. All right, so something to think about. Now, what advantages providing this generic operators? Okay, what are the benefits to the user? Okay, what's the impact on future code changes? And what are the pros and cons of dispatching on type? Think about what changes are needed, right, when a new representation is installed. So you add another type, what happens? Okay, and next thing, does it actually resolve the naming conflict issue? So what are the problems with dispatch on type? Well, first of all, your generic operators will need to know all the types available. That means that if you need to add a new type, right, all the operators that you have implemented, right, will need to basically add another case, right? So it's not that big a deal, but it's a little annoying, right? And it doesn't actually resolve the name conflict issue. That means that all the different types, they need to have their own functions, and the functions need to be called differently so that this generic operator can call the right function to apply on the different types after it checks what type it is.